to the
Hey,
nurse
girl.
and Dr. Sandra. She is the host of the Doctor Nurse podcast, and I'm so happy that you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about all things podcasting and really the importance of starting your own podcast, how to do it if you're interested, and really how to even just be on podcasts and all the opportunities that it brings. So, thank you so much, Dr. Sandra, for coming on with us. Please
Yes.
share some, some great things about yourself and introduce yourself.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on, Farah. Again, the Nursing Dose with Farah. I'm so happy to be here and to chat with you about what I am doing on the side. So, to kind of introduce myself, I am a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner, and I work part time as a nurse practitioner in urology, which is a really interesting job. I do kind of multifaceted job. So I see patients in clinic. I also do procedures. So it's a procedure based job where I get to do cystoscopies and just kind of whatever my heart desires. I get to like work in a really neat way with my nurse practitioner scope of my nurse practitioner license. And then my night job, so that's by day, and so by night, like Batman, I dress up, get changed, and then I turn into a nurse podcaster, which I have a nurse podcast called the Doctor Nurse Podcast that just hit 50,000 downloads. So it is my little baby that I created, and yeah, it really stemmed from whenever I had my son, I didn't necessarily want to go back full time to work. I really wanted to be a more present mom. And I began to realize that even though I had all this alphabet soup after my name, which you are somebody that has an incredible amount of alphabet soup after her name. But yes, having all this alphabet soup after your name doesn't really afford you very many options if you're not working at a hospital. So I said, wait a minute, why did I not research these things before I became a mom and before I had to go back to the only place that I knew where to make money?
Mhm.
So yeah, so kind of in that same vein of making nursing, making money moves, I began to research. I'm dropping hints, girl. You see this? Stick with me. Okay. Stick with me. But yes, in the heart of wanting to make money moves, I said, what can I do? And I asked my husband, like, what am I good at? He's like, you're good at talking. Like, that's just all you do. And so he was like, go talk to other people. So I was like, what can I do? I'll start a podcast. And so that's what I did. I started a podcast 2 years ago, and it's been such an incredible journey, met such incredible people. Yeah. And that is the Doctor Nerd podcast, how it got birthed, and then kind of what's been happening and transpiring since then. It's just been an absolute wild ride. It's been nuts. It's been cool.
Awesome. So, again, for those who are just joining us, please let us know where you're watching from, city, country, wherever in the world you are. Drop us a hello. Let us know if you have any comments, questions, concerns. If you happen to be watching the replay, also put your comments in there and we will reply back. And then if you, what was I going to say? I can't even remember now.
You
But yeah,
saying comments?
if you have any comments, questions, just drop it in and then, just say hello. But I want to, and guys, I was on the Dr. Nurse podcast and it was so much fun. We had a blast. It was like
Yes.
we knew each other from, years ago. That that's how cool it was. And you have such a natural ability to really connect with people. So I think podcasting is really, really great. We were just talking offline before we came on, and actually, I started a podcast, but then I kind of stopped. It was just audio. But tell them about your podcast and why you chose to start it and why you chose the video option because you could do
Yeah.
either audio or video.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about creating a podcast and that's kind of what you're starting to go like, well, maybe I have some things to say. Okay.
Mhm,
Listen up because I have some things to say. So if you feel that way, then
mhm.
what I recommend is what I do is I started on Anchor, which has now been bought out by Spotify. It's a really great platform to create podcasting. So it's so easy. It's free. You sign up, it'll publish your podcast, it'll disperse it through whatever, amount of channels you want to put it on, Apple Podcast, it'll put it everywhere for you. So it's super simple and intuitive. Like pretty sure, my Puerto Rican mother could, push the buttons and get a podcast out there, because it's just really, really easy. This is not complicated stuff, which is so funny, because whenever your mom calls you and she's like, I can't do it on the computer, you're like, oh my God, please somebody help me. I've seen that joke. It's really funny. So super, super simple. Anybody can publish a podcast. The part that becomes difficult with a podcast is the consistency, right? Like the consistency, the grind, I'm never giving up. I'm going to keep going. Because there are days that I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. But I have to remember my why. I have to remember what I'm trying to build, what I'm trying to foster. And so that's the really hard part of a podcast. So the easy part is just getting started. And, and again, sometimes that's even the hard part, right? Is getting over the imposter syndrome of, I don't belong here. Nobody wants to hear my voice. Nobody hears what I have to say. But what you start to find as you begin to build community is that your brand speaks to certain people, and you will begin to create a community of people that like what it is that you're talking about, whatever you're sharing about, especially if you have a specialty in nursing. And something that you are very good at, that you've built up in your career. And the more niche-y you get, the more you'll realize, whoa, there are other niche-y people in this nursing space. I'm not alone. And you can begin to create something that can be very neat. And we talked a little bit before the podcast, is that then you can create other things from the podcast. So yes, it's hard, but it's easy, but it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, even doing this LinkedIn live show, I used to do it weekly for, I think, almost like 6 months or maybe 7 months. Then it dropped off for a little bit and then I came back to it. But you're right. It is consistency, being consistent. And it really helps with connecting with other people, because think about it. You meet so many different people. That's how we met, through your podcast. Somebody was asking about the name of it. So it's called Dr. Miss Podcast. I think it was Stacy. So hi, Stacy.
Hey, Stacy.
Thank you for joining. Check out the podcast. And then who else is here? We have Cindy from Cali. And she said, we always want to know how to make money moves podcasting and how to get started. So yes, the reason we say money moves, because I'm always shamelessly plugging in my book. So I wrote a book, Nurses Making Money Moves, The Nurse's Guide to Starting a Business. And that can be found on my website, nursefarah.com. So we're both entrepreneurs. We're always thinking about ways to make money. So talk to them. How can they make money podcasting? Because I didn't even know that you could make money through Anchor.
Yes. So Anchor runs like campaigns every once in a while where you can just chime in and throw an ad on your podcast. You make money as the podcast episodes play. And so that's one way to make money. Another way to make money is through sponsorships, which is something that I've been able to get at certain points of my podcasting career. So what you do is you reach out to like-minded businesses, people that maybe products you're already using. So if you are, a nurse practitioner or a nurse and you are super into Thrive Cart, these are things that you can do to throw an affiliate link on your podcast to create some income around there. Throw a commercial on there and say, hey, listen, I really love Thrive Cart. I literally love ButcherBox. Some of these companies will give you codes, even if you're just a regular person. Throw the code on there and you can actually begin to generate revenue as people click those codes and use your little link. And that's one way to create money. Another way is to reach out to nurse businesses. They're always looking for ways to promote their podcast. So reach out to a nurse business and say, hey, listen, I have this podcast. I have this level of listenership. And then they can actually say, all right, yeah, I'll give you some money to sponsor your podcast if you will throw a commercial at the beginning, mid-roll, end, wherever they end up paying. And you can attach certain price points to that as well. So a little more expensive for a beginning of the podcast commercial. Middle of the road, most people have been listening to the podcast and they don't want to stop. So you throw a commercial in there and you can generate money that way. So there's affiliate links, there's sponsorships for a podcast, and then you could actually have people pay you to come on to your podcast, which has been another way that I've been able to generate a level of money from my podcast. is by having people with certain businesses say, hey, listen, you want to promote your business on my podcast? You want to, have other nurses, or, you want to use my audience to promote whatever it is that you're doing, pay me for it. And so I've been able to get money that way from, And so it's been such an incredible thing. And again, it's a lot of work to build the audience part. And I'm sure that there are things that I don't know yet and will know after X amount of years of podcasting that I'm like, whoa, I wish I would have known this sooner. But as of right now, these are the 3 ways that I've been able to generate revenue for myself, is by doing this work, in conjunction with the social media.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm learning because, I'm going to probably get into this, back into this anchor right here, because I interview people all the time, and telling you, we always need ways to make money. So talk to, we're all about being real, and
100%.
come in, 100 with all this information. So tell the people out there, what is the range? Obviously, if it's like a business, and depending on the business, you probably will charge a little differently. But like, say, just average, what do you think is the range that you may charge for, say, an ad or something like that to come to your podcast? Or, if you feel comfortable saying it, at least
I don't mind.
a range.
I don't mind. I'm keeping it real, 100%. So what I do here is I actually charge based on my listenership. So as I pick up people, I then charge that number as, hey, you want to sponsor the podcast? This is what it is. And I dial that number based on how many people listen to my podcast. What's my audience size? And so that number is published by Spotify. And so if you have 500 listeners, charge $500. It's $1 a person. And so if you want to sponsor my podcast, you can pay me $500, and they'll say, okay, that sounds good. And so as my podcast has grown, that number has increased, right? So as my podcast picks up, I have more listeners, more people, I'm driving more people to my content. Then I say, hey, listen, you want to sponsor? It's $500. And they're like, okay. And again, you can also set this price. I mean, if you feel like you're worth $1,000, you go ahead and say that. And I feel like the content's worth. Now, they may not want to pay that. So that might be something that you need to, be thinking about. But as far as, for me, what I felt like was a quote unquote fair price was just, it's $1 a head. So
and the volume. The volume of listeners. I mean, that's a good kind of way to look at it. And also, like you said, it's, it's up to you to really make your price. And if they're going to pay for it, then great. Especially if you're looking at the type of business. If it's like some massive business, right? Like just say Johnson & Johnson, I don't know, something, right?
Yeah.
Obviously they're huge, right? But if it's like some local small business, they may not have as much. So, but you can also try to negotiate as well, right?
100%. Yeah.
Right.
And one of the things that I was thinking about too, is like, you can do it based on your audience, but you can also do it based on like how many plays. So say the person is like, hey, listen, I don't have a lot of money, but if your podcast plays 500 times or 1,000 times or 10,000 times, I'll pay you a number based on how many downloads of the podcast there are. So that's another way to market your podcast as well, as if you've got 5,000-6,000 downloads, and you can say it's a penny a download or something like that. And now you just made $5,000, or like, does that make sense? Did I do the math on that right? Yeah, I think 1,000 pennies is 1,000. I don't know, whatever.
We get it. We get it.
But like, the math. Whatever the math is, you just run it that way, or it's 10 cents a download. So you have 5,000 downloads. Okay, I can't do math. $500. You know what I'm saying? But
calculator, it's all good.
Yeah, you got what I'm trying to say. But basically, like, you can build your audience. As you build your audience, you can then use that download clickability that you've got going on in your podcast to generate revenue. Yes, I struggle with that at first. I bulk create now and schedule, which is another nice feature of the Spotify Spotify Plus, which is so good. And yes, it's such a good idea. That's another really good thing, Emily, to notice, is that you can bulk. So the only reason why that's a little bit tough is because not everyone's availability that you're recording can do it on that day.
Right.
But again, they're like, okay, well, if it doesn't happen this month, can you do that day next month? Like, you can bulk it. Again, that's super smart. I tend to kind of have like a rolling calendar because it's only about a 30-minute podcast. So if you've got a Saturday that works for you and I'm in town, then let's just take 30 minutes and I'll come back and record a podcast and kind of keep the content going. But that is a challenge, is to keep the finding the right people, finding people on brand, on message that you like, that the energy's good. I mean,
Right.
you find someone like Farah and it's like, okay, this was easy. Like I didn't have to like work at all. Sometimes I do
Like you.
sometimes I have to do a screening process because I'm like, you're kind of weird. Like, I don't know if this is gonna work, So
But the funny thing is,
yeah,
it's like when the camera comes on, some people are just not used to it, right? Even if it's just being recorded. Like right now, we're live, right? Which is a little bit different. It makes people nervous. But
yeah,
I've had people that are like, they chatter, and then they get on and they're like it's okay.
yeah. Deer in the headlights. Ah!
But I really enjoy the video podcasting versus audio. But again, everybody has their own preference. But I think people connect a little bit more when they see the individual, the different mannerisms, and things like that. But audio is cool too. You could be driving and listen to the audio.
Yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure you can listen to the audio and the video as well. You know.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I think is again another great thing with podcasting too, especially video podcasting,
Mhm.
is then throwing it up on YouTube. So now you're finding yourself on multiple platforms, right? And so
Diversify, yes.
yeah, so this is another revenue stream that I mean, I'm almost there. You want to get monetized on YouTube, right? And you've got to reach a certain amount of people in order to get monetized.
Mhm.
So the number is 1,000, or at least it was when I last looked. It might have moved, but like the
Mhm.
needle is 1,000. Once you get 1,000 subscribers, now you start generating revenue from ads on YouTube. And so you're just like, come with it. Like that's another way to make money. There's more people that you can be throwing up your videos and creating content that can reach more people. And again, that's another way that I kind of market my services too. I'm like, hey, listen, I will record an episode with you. I will, you can pay me to do all the editing. I put it up
Mhm.
on YouTube. And so I use this, like I've got X amount of people here on YouTube. I've got X amount of people here. Like this is how we are going to be, taking this content and marketing it in your favor. And so people will pay for that.
I actually have a question that just came just to my head. So you
Sure.
see how I'm doing this LinkedIn Live, right? And I have all these videos, and it streams to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and obviously LinkedIn. So I'm thinking, can I, even though it's live, can I take this video and make it into, like, put it on Anchor, even though it's already been
Yeah,
done?
so you can upload the video on Anchor. Yeah, you can upload the video on Anchor, and now you've got a podcast that you've been talking to these people and
Like,
you've been recording.
like over like a year, so I have so much content.
Yeah,
Could
girl,
be onto
this
something.
is this is a podcast. Now, like, you might wanna do an intro just to be like, "Hey, thanks for coming to the Farah at so and so podcast. I'm so happy to have you guys here. This is an episode I recorded with so and so chatting about X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
Enjoy the episode." And just put the content out there, throw an outro on it, and now you've got a podcast. Like,
I think I could be onto something because
yeah,
it's a lot of content. And
yeah.
that's the thing, when you're a content creator, even on LinkedIn or Instagram, I'm not really that big on Instagram or TikTok, but I probably need to get in there. But what I've learned from other content creators, and I watch different people, but they talk about repurposing your content, right? So
100.
it's huge. Like I'm not good with editing videos and things like that. But once you have a long form video, like a 30-minute video, you can find somebody that maybe is good at editing, pick out some of the stuff, and then go put it on Instagram, put it on TikTok, because content creation is huge. So
And
if you
so
want,
I'm actually going to challenge you because you just said I'm not good at video editing. And like, I don't think that's true, Farah. Like, all you would have to do, again, once you upload the content,
Mhm.
is you throw a couple layers on it. And there's a program that I use called Descript. It's fabulous. I love it. Descript. And you throw the video on there and you have it take, it takes a couple clicks of a button and it
Mhm.
takes out all the ums and all the yeah and all that stuff. It cleans up the audio. And
Mhm.
then I throw like a background on it. I throw something really cute on there. And it's super simple just to like create a video. And like, I mean, my videos aren't like elaborate with like phases in and phases out, but like it's a video that I throw up on YouTube that people watch the whole thing. Like it's kind of cool. And I'm not a video editor, and I don't have to hire anybody. You could do it yourself. And you could end up taking that content, and Descript will send it to YouTube for you. So you don't even have to like send it. You just link your YouTube account and then it'll send it over there. And you can have your edited podcast episode double as video on YouTube. And once you get a system in place, which is another big tip for podcasters, is creating the systems. And once you get the systems in place, it becomes really easy just to just go, all right, we do that, we do this, and we're done. And so that's kind of my advice, is just, you know.
Right. So Descript, is that something that you pay for?
Yeah, it's super cheap. It's like $15 a month.
Okay.
It's not expensive.
Yeah.
And yeah, I use that to edit all my content. You can actually build videos on there too. Like you just drop whatever. You could tell it transition. No, so you can. So I create content on Canva, which is something that any digital creator needs. Canva. Like Canva's like it's like oxygen. Okay, like you need Canva. If you don't have Canva, you're not breathing. So get Canva. There's a free version of Canva.
I was gonna break out into the Chris Brown That Breed song, but I don't remember the lyrics.
I don't know. Like you just need you gotta get Canva. It's free. You can pay for the premium. It's worth it. Pay for it.
Yeah, it's only like 100 something a year, something like that.
Do it. Just
hey, listen, if Canva's out there listening,
support the podcast. See, boom, here you go. Money. Making money moves. Just simple.
Money moves. And check out Sandra's podcast, Dr. Nurse Podcast. Listen, you guys are quiet out there. What is going on? Let us know if you're watching, where you're watching from.
Somebody said hello.
Let us know. Yeah, somebody said hello. I threw it up.
Marco.
Yes.
Hi, Marco.
And then Emily, if you're still there, or Cynthia, let us know, guys, if you have any questions. And we have a few more minutes left. Let's talk about this is gems right here. You're dropping gems. Like I'm gonna listen back to this and pick up on this for me. So happy you're on here dropping all the value. So tell the people why they should really be on podcasts. Because like me, I'm always looking for a podcast to be on, because I believe in visibility, right? Because I have my own business, Farah Laurent International Nurse Coach. I'm a nurse career coach for nurses, help them with like interviews and things like that. So why is it important, if you have a business, or even if you're just trying to brand yourself as a nurse and maybe later thinking about doing something, why is it important to be on different people's podcasts?
So there is one thing from podcasting that I would have never gotten staying what I like to call small. If you stay small and you just stay at your job and you just depend on the networks that you've made or the connections that you've made at your job, you will always stay relatively small, because it is such a tight little niche and there's not that many people at wherever you're working. What I love about podcasting, and one thing that I have found across the board, is your network is your net worth. Your ability to walk in and out of spaces and have people say, oh, I know her. Oh, she's actually great. She'd be good for this. Or that has been by far the number one reason to podcast, is the ability to make connections and to meet people. Because if you realize that most jobs that people get is because they had a friend inside that hooked them up with the hiring manager and was like, she'd be great. She'd be good at this job. Like, you're more likely to get in front of people. You're more likely to be presented with opportunities if you're putting yourself out there and saying, hey, listen, this is who I am, and seeing who you attract to yourself. Now, if you're a negative person, your energy is going to attract negative. So like that part I can't help you with. But if
keeping it real over here,
keeping it real. But like, if you have like good energy and you have a heart towards something that you love, and you have a passion and you have a desire to share that passion with the world, what you will find is that people will be so receptive to hearing about what you have to say. And again, you will find like-minded individuals as you share who you are. And I believe that the world is craving realness. It's
Mm.
craving realness. It's craving authenticity. It's craving people that are being themselves and allowing others to see that. And I think that a podcast is a fabulous way to network, show who you really are, and to create a community around things that I don't know why, like I just got like balloons, but somebody's like something just happened. But like, do you get my point, right? Like it's just such
Yeah.
a great opportunity to be able to grow and to be considered for things that you would have never been considered for if you would have just stayed in your small pond.
So many great points there to talk about. And honestly, I'm so happy that I got to come on your podcast and we got to meet. It's truly a blessing. So I'm telling you, so many great, wonderful nurses out there. Not even just nurses, because I also interview non-nurses on this show.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. Like, oh, speaking of beautiful, here's Elia. Hi. Thank you for coming on. We were in a coaching program together and she wrote multiple books. She's great. She's not a nurse, but she's
Oh,
cool.
nice.
But yeah, speaking about that, I'm telling you, you're right. People are attracted to your energy, your positivity. And I think there's no better way to do that than the video podcasting. You could still, attract people with like the audio, but I think video is great because it really captures your whole kind of essence, right? And you're so vibrant. Like I think this is what me and you were like, yeah,
Yes. Yes.
we vibe, right?
Yeah.
You're real, like you're talking about authenticity. You're real, and I think you really like even people that come on to this LinkedIn show, I tell you, it's like conversational. I don't have anything scripted. We don't, people are like, oh, do you have questions? I'm like, no, there's no questions. Just a conversation. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm super laid back. But I think it allows people to really feel less anxious and it's less scripted, right?
Yeah.
So, tell me, you talked a little bit and we're going to wrap it up soon, but let us know if you have any questions. Let us know what your mission is, like why you really, your purpose, your why. You talked a little bit about that. Why did you create this platform, this podcasting?
Oh man. So I'll be honest, the heart of it again stemmed with the birth of my son and realizing that time freedom
Mhm.
is the biggest flex, period. So finding purpose in what you do and serving people. Love that. Yes, that emoji. I just see like that little like arm emoji. Yeah. That's the biggest flex, right? Like I don't care what you drive. I don't care what house you're in. Like I just don't. Like the biggest flex is time freedom. And I began to realize that I did not cultivate time freedom in my nursing career.
Mhm.
And there is this rhetoric in nursing that we are victims and that there are not opportunities and they're not things for us to do. And I just am like, I'm going to buck that. I'm going to show you the plethora of options because an abundance mindset is there are plenty of opportunities. I don't see problems. Every problem is an opportunity because I can create a solution. I can be the solution. And so that is the mindset that I wanted to cultivate. I wanted to create conversations around what were you able to build with your nursing skills? How can those translate into real estate? How can those translate into, you want to do tax deed wolf. I had him on the podcast. He talked about tax deeds and how his
Mhm.
nursing skills helped him move into that space, like that our nursing skills are transferable to so
Right.
many things that can create opportunities away from the bedside if you're burned out, or you can do your nursing job part-time while you grow a side hustle gig that can actually set you free or just allow you to step away from a place that characteristically and always tends to burn out their employees either physically, mentally. And so I said, can I create something, because I have felt like I had no options, and that can't be true. And I can't be the only one that feels this way. And so I just began, like I said, finding the people that were creating those things for themselves and saying, hey, how'd you do that? What'd
Right.
you do? And I began to realize it's a mindset. The more and more I've spent time, again, I've recorded over 100 episodes. The
Mhm.
more and more that I have spent time discussing these concepts, I began to realize it was a mindset. It was something that you just had to talk yourself into. And
Right.
there's so many options that I've watched nurses create. So it's been incredible.
That's amazing. And, you said it all. I think really mindset and a growth mindset is really important because, you get kind of, you're right. You get sucked into the negativity, right? And misery loves company. So you got to stay away from those negative people
Yeah.
and really create. And I think nurses are creative. Like you said, we're adaptable. We can do so many different things with our, different skills. And a lot of nurses are branching out into different things. And it's that entrepreneurial mindset as well. And it's okay. We have to normalize that. It's okay for nurses to branch out and do other things because we can. Like you said, we have the opportunity and we can. And, I also live in Canada and we're in the US, obviously, but it's like, even in other countries, right? The internet and things have made things so accessible. You can do so many things. You can have a business without having an actual like brick and mortar. So many opportunities. I know you talked about something about Etsy earlier, but
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
podcasting helped you create like an opportunity with Etsy, right?
So crazy. So what ended up happening was I recorded a podcast with the CEO of NP Hub. And in passing, I was telling him about a girlfriend of mine that created something for her precepted students. So he owns one of the number one precepting business in the US that puts students with clinical preceptors. He does the work of pairing them. And so, yeah, we just had a conversation. We were talking. I actually had him sponsor the podcast for multiple episodes.
Mhm.
And we were recording an episode. And so I said something and he was like, wait, go back to that. And so at the end of the episode, we recorded, we came back to it, and he actually ended up hiring me and my girlfriend to create these workbooks for his company. So we created these workbooks, we kept the rights, and then we threw them up on Etsy, and we were able to create clinical workbooks that actually help nurse practitioners. And we've been selling them on Etsy. We just launched our own website. It's called Success NP. So yeah, guys, check it out.
Success
Yes.
NP. I'm gonna
It's
put it in. I don't know if you guys can see it. What is it? SuccessNP.com?
successnps.com. So it's NPs with an S at the end.com.
Okay.
And it's my second business that we have birthed out of this podcast, Dr. Nurse Podcast LLC. That's now birthed this other thing that now Dr. Nurse Podcast LLC, that now we've launched this other thing that has been so incredible and has been creating more opportunities. I just work on it on the side. I'll put together again my clinical knowledge, using that to create more opportunities. I'm not going to lie, the work is super hard. It took hours. What you'll see the Etsy shop and you'll go, oh, she's so lucky. But what you won't realize is that I was 9 months pregnant creating those booklets. I would sit so long in the chairs, Farah, that my legs would get so swollen because I was pregnant. I was 9 months pregnant creating these booklets. And so, yeah, you'll see it and think, oh, she's been so lucky. But the truth is I just have worked really, really hard at these things. But the podcast has brought the opportunities, and I just going, oh my goodness, I would have never thought that if you would have told me when I started podcasting that I would be at this spot, I would say, get out of here. You're telling me a lie. Get out of here. And it's been actually pretty cool.
I know, right? So let's kind of wrap it up and give some tips, right? So audio is very important, video is important. I actually just use my laptop right now because I bought all these cameras and things and realized like it didn't even connect because I'm crazy. So I'm probably gonna get a PC where I can use later and like get the actual really good camera. So what are some tips for you? And I have a camera light right here.
Yeah. To
which
start recording.
it's like $30. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just quick tips that you would give them to start recording, and don't be afraid to get on camera. Really, that's the biggest tip.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Gary Vee talks a lot about that. Just getting on, like you don't need to look great. You just need to get on, which is a little bit harder for girls. Like you're just like, let me throw a little bit of makeup on. I got to like do a little something. I can't just throw myself up there just however. But again, I think there are some podcasts out there that I'm like, Sandra, you looking rough. But the content is still there. It's still valuable. So it's fine. But yeah, I think that would be kind of the first hurdle to get over. Just From the audio side, I did
Mhm.
like podcasting because I can do it in my pajamas and I don't have to be like, super beautiful. But the video aspect does
Right.
create a level of complexity. So that part is a little bit tough. Letting people know that they're going to be recorded on video too is something you have to do. But to get started, again, like I said, start an account on Spotify for podcasters. Super easy. I kind of grew my podcast organically. So as I made more money,
Mhm.
I got more things. Like I was like, Yeti microphone, let's do it. Like ring light. My ring light was a little more than $20. Like, but I record a lot of episodes. So like throw it
Right.
up there. And so I grew these things as I got more money. I would not have done this from the beginning because this can be a lot. And if you don't have it, all you
Mhm.
need is a free Canva, a free a free Spotify for podcasters, and then you can use just microphone, like the ear plugs and the Apple, plug-in thing.
Mhm.
Just get started. Just the whole point is to just get started. Do it now. Do it
That's it.
yesterday. Like just get started and then let all the details figure themselves out. Like
Right. And the thing is too, I'm not much of a technical person, but like if I can figure out how to do a live, and you can really figure out anything on YouTube University, right? Just go on YouTube and then get connected with other people who are trying to do the same thing. So obviously, if you want to be a podcaster, then follow multiple podcasters and get different ideas from them. And then, that's kind of how you can get started. So
yeah.
let the people know where they can find you. So we
All
can
right.
wrap it up.
Yeah, Dr. Nurse Podcast. So I am anywhere you listen to podcasts. My podcast is there. I've actually launched a subscription series through my podcast as well, where you can pay for more specialized content. I actually spend a lot of time in write up. Yeah, I spend a lot of time in write up episodes. So one of the things that I've been promoting through my podcast is part-time jobs for nurse moms and dads that are wanting a work-life balance, because that's something that I've, again, going back to the biggest flex is the time freedom. When you
Mhm.
have children, when you have a family, that ability to kind of go like, I get to choose my schedule is something that I don't think I think that more hospitals need to be offering as a way to retain nurses. So instead of losing nurses because
Right.
they're burned out, if you created more opportunities for part-time work, people would, I believe, stay longer and they wouldn't feel so burned out because they're doing on the other days the things that fill them up. And
Mhm.
so if the job kind of pulls a little something out of you, which caring for people does, just period, then let me go do the things that fill me up so that I can be a good employee when I'm here. So that's a series that I've created through the podcast that is actually a paid subscription, but I throw up free episodes every month, every other, like
Mhm.
probably every other week now, because I do the paid subscription stuff as well.
Mhm.
But you can find me there, listen to conversations I'm having with nurses that are creating really cool things in their jobs. And then you can download, if you're interested in the content I'm putting together for part-time working moms and dads in nursing. That's another thing that you can check out as well. I'm on Instagram. I don't TikTok because I'll be 100. Like I'm just not 18. Like I'm an elder millennial. Like, okay,
Don't
you're right.
knock
You're
it.
right.
Knock it. Gary V and all these people that you just got to repurpose the content, put it up
No,
there.
you're so
Don't be
right.
you're
You're
old.
so right. You're
Me and
so right.
successnpeace.com too.
Yes. And then there's also successandpeace.com, which we're on Etsy, but we're also on the World Wide Web. So yeah, that's all the spots that I'm at. Dr. Nurse Podcast. And yeah, just type it into the web browser, search me, type my name, Dr. Sandra Pagenta. It'll pull stuff up. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, it was such a pleasure. And again, of course, I got to put my Money Moves workbook.
Yes.
Get it on nursefarah.com. Such a pleasure to have you on. And we can
Likewise.
probably do another episode again, seriously, on like podcasting, because I learned so much. So let us know in the comments if this was helpful, if you're still there, even if you're watching the replay, drop in some comments. And again, it was such a pleasure to have you on, Sandra. Thank you so much. And stay on because, I'll talk to you for a minute. All right. Have a good day, guys. Take
Have
care.
a good day. Enjoy your Friday. TGIF.
Thank you for coming to the Nursing Dose with Farah. And